You ever notice how the American dream comes with a receipt now? Used to be you worked hard, kept your nose clean, and maybe one day you got a little house, a car that didn't sound like a dying blender, and a refrigerator that didn't hum louder than your conscience. That was the deal, a fair exchange. You put in the effort, you get the reward. But somewhere along the line they decided the dream needed a premium version, kind of like cable TV. You want the full package. That'll cost extra. Let's start with housing. There was a time you could buy a house with one job. One job, imagine that people worked at the post office, the steel mill, the local diner, and after a few years they'd have a little place with a lawn and a mailbox that actually said their name. Today, you need a down payment the size of a small nation's GDP and a credit score that glows in the dark. You walk into a bank, and the loan officer looks at you like you just asked to adopt his children. You want to buy a house, how cute. Have you considered renting forever? And don't even get me started on rent. Rent used to be a temporary thing, something you did before life began. Now it is life. We've got people in their 30s having roommates named Mom and Dad. Not because they love family bonding, but because it's the only housing they can afford that comes with free Wi-Fi and judgmental breakfast conversations. Then there's education. Remember when a college degree meant opportunity, now it means debt and a roommate named Sally Me. You get out of school, and your diploma comes with a bill that looks like the national debt clock. People go to college to improve their lives, and by the time they're done, they're wall. It looks like it's been mugged by the entire education system. We tell kids, follow your dreams, but we forget to mention they'll need a co-signer. You spend 4 years studying philosophy, and then you spend the next 40 years philosophizing about why you're still paying for it. And wages, oh, that's my favorite part of the American fairy tale. Wages haven't moved in decades. You can work 40 hours a week and still not afford to buy what you're helping to sell. That's a new kind of irony. They call it the working poor. That's a phrase that shouldn't even exist. Working poor is like jumbo shrimp or clean politician. If you're working full-time and still can't make it, the system's not broken. It's perfectly designed for someone else. They've convinced people that if you're not rich yet, it's your fault. You just need to work harder. Yeah, right. There's folks out there working 3 jobs, sleeping in their cars between shifts, and they're still behind on bills. How much harder do you want them to work? Start mining Bitcoin with their bare hands. We've replaced the dream of prosperity with a lottery ticket. Everybody's got a side hustle now, as if the side of your life is supposed to feed the middle of it. And when you finally get a day off, you spend it doing self-care, which mostly means trying to remember what it felt like to have free time. The dream used to be about progress, every generation doing a little better than the last. Now it's about survival, just trying not to slide backward. Your grandparents could raise a family on 1 paycheck. Your parents needed 2. Now you need 2 people, 3 jobs and a miracle, and you still might have to share the Wi-Fi password with the neighbors. You turn on the TV and they say, the economy's doing great. Yeah, maybe for the economy. For the people, not so much. The stock market's at a record high, but you can't eat the stock market. You can't live in it either, unless you're one of those guys sleeping under a brokerage report. It's like they're celebrating how rich the rich are, while the rest of us are just trying to remember the taste of real butter. Even the basics come with a subscription now. Water bill, electric bill, internet bill, streaming services, health insurance. You can't even die cheap anymore. Funerals cost more than some weddings. You'd think for that price they'd throw in a resurrection. And what about health care? The great American paradox. You can't afford to get sick, but you can't afford to stay healthy either. The gym's too expensive, the organic food costs more than a car payment, and if you break your leg, the ambulance ride alone could bankrupt you, so people just tape it up and limp to work. Because if you don't show up, you don't get paid, and if you don't get paid, you don't get to keep the roof you're renting at interest. We tell ourselves this is freedom, the freedom to choose between stress and bankruptcy, and somehow we buy it literally on credit because the American dream has turned into the American payment plan, monthly installments of hope, 0% interest if you apply before midnight. It's not that people stopped dreaming, it's that the dream got rebranded. It's exclusive now, like a country club. You can still have it, sure, but only if you can afford the dues. They've turned opportunity into a luxury item, and the rest of us, we're just window shopping our own futures. But here's the kicker. People still believe. That's the wild part. Even when the evidence is piled higher than a Wall Street bonus check, people still cling to the dream because it's beautiful, it's poetic. It's baked right into the national DNA. It's the story we tell ourselves to make all the nonsense worth it. Work hard, play by the rules, and you'll make it. Except the rules keep changing and the goalposts keep moving, and somehow they're always just a little farther away than last year. So we keep running, working longer hours, taking out bigger loans, chasing smaller rewards. We keep buying the ticket because the alternative feels too cynical. After all, no one wants to admit that the dream they were promised turned out to be a limited time offer. But maybe, just maybe, the problem isn't that people stopped trying. Maybe it's that the dream was never supposed to cost this much. Maybe it was meant to be something you earn, not something you finance. Because when the cost of opportunity outpaces the people it's meant for, that's not ambition anymore. That's auctioning off the future to the highest bidder. And at some point you have to look around and say, hey, wasn't this supposed to be the land of opportunity? When did it become the land of invoices? Because that's the punchline of the whole thing. You ever notice how in this country the bar keeps getting lower, but somehow the applause keeps getting louder? We used to dream big space travel, invention, changing the world. Now we just dream of getting through the week without the car breaking down or the boss scheduling a quick meeting. You know the one, the quick meeting that ruins your whole day and your will to live. The system used to tell you, reach for the stars. Now it says, don't forget to clock in on time, or you'll lose your health insurance. That's progress, American style. We've traded ambition for exhaustion. The whole setup doesn't reward those who want to get ahead. It rewards those who can stay awake the longest. People are surviving on caffeine, duct tape, and pure panic. You walk around and everyone's tired. You ever notice that everyone's got that same look? Like they've been awake since 1987. That's because the system runs on fatigue. It's the national fuel source. Forget oil. We could power the whole country off collective burnout. We live in a country that praises hard work, but never defines what that means. You're not supposed to work smart anymore. You're supposed to look busy. Whole careers have been built on pretending to type. You ever see someone at the office just hammering away on a keyboard like they're solving global hunger? You peek over and they're writing an email to IT because their printer won't connect. And when you do work hard, what's the reward? More work. You do a great job, they say. Hey, you're doing fantastic. Here, take on this new project. You do a bad job, they say. We're going to have to let you go. There's no middle ground. You either drown or tread water long enough to be handed a heavier rock. Meanwhile, they tell you this is all part of the grind. The grind, you ever notice they call it that, not the glide, not the joy, not the satisfaction, the grind, like we're coffee beans being pulverized for someone else's morning. And we celebrate it, rise and grind. Yeah, rise and grind because sleeping and relaxing are for the weak. right? You take a vacation. People look at you like you just committed treason. A week off must be nice. Yeah, it is nice. That's why I'm doing it. We've turned misery into a virtue. I only slept 3 hours last night. Oh yeah, I slept too. It's like a suffering competition. Nobody wants to live well anymore. They just want to out-suffer each other. People brag about being busy, like it's a badge of honor. You ask someone how they're doing, and they go, busy, as if that's a personality. The system doesn't reward creativity either. It rewards compliance. You think outside the box, and someone reminds you, hey, the box is company property. Stay inside it. The dreamers get crushed under the deadlines. The innovators get told to fill out forms. You could have the cure for boredom, and they'd say, we'll need that in triplicate by Friday. And don't forget about team spirit. That's another scam. We're all a family here. Yeah, right. Families don't make you reapply for your own job after a restructuring. Families don't send happy birthday emails from HR that end with a reminder to complete your compliance training. If that's family, I'll stay single forever. The truth is, the system doesn't want you inspired. Inspired people ask questions. They challenge things. The system wants you just motivated enough to keep showing up, but too tired to fight back. It's a delicate balance, like keeping a hamster running in its wheel without letting it notice the cage. And then there's this obsession with success stories. Oh, you know the ones. Every few months they trot out some story about a guy who started with nothing and became a millionaire selling handmade dog sweaters. See, the dream is still alive. Yeah, one guy made it, 1 out of 300 million. The rest of us are still trying to figure out how to pay the electric bill before the late fee. They call that inspiration. I call it a distraction. You show people one miracle and tell them it's proof the system works. But miracles aren't a business plan, they're a marketing campaign, and while you're out there hustling, grinding, and surviving, the system gives you a little pat on the back. Good job, you're so resilient. That's their favorite word, resilient. You know what resilient really means. It means we can keep screwing you over and you'll keep showing up. It's not a compliment, it's a diagnosis. It's like congratulating a hamster for running so well in its wheel. Wow, look at him go, he's so dedicated. Yeah, but he's not getting anywhere. He's just really good at staying in motion. They used to tell us, you can be anything you want. Now it's, you can be anything you can afford. And what most people can afford is to survive. Maybe get a nice coffee on payday, maybe with a coupon, and don't forget how they frame everything as a privilege now. You're lucky to have a job. Lucky, I thought that was the point. You're not supposed to feel lucky to have a job, you're supposed to feel secure. But they've convinced us that basic stability is some kind of gift from the heavens. Oh, thank you, corporate America, for letting me keep my dental plan for another year. Truly, I am blessed. Meanwhile, you've got managers talking about work-life balance while sending emails at midnight. We encourage you to disconnect. Yeah, right after you answer the last 20 urgent messages, because nothing says balance like working from the beach you can't afford to relax on. The system keeps you running in circles, chasing stability, calling it progress. We've become professional survivors. We adapt, we adjust, we keep smiling through it, and somehow that's become the national skill. You can't afford the dream, but you can endure the nightmare, and they'll give you a certificate for it. Employee of the Month for not collapsing under pressure. But here's the thing, people aren't lazy, they're exhausted. They're playing a game that was never meant to be won, just continued. The system needs you tired, compliant, and grateful for crumbs. Because the minute people stop surviving and start living, the illusion collapses, and that's why it keeps you on the edge. Just enough to hope, never enough to rest. Because if you ever got enough rest to think clearly, you might start asking questions. Dangerous questions like, why am I working harder than ever and still falling behind? Or, who exactly is this grind benefiting? That's the part they don't want you to notice, because when you do, you stop being part of the system and start being a threat to it. Because here's the punchline. You ever notice how the American dream's gotten so out of shape it needs a gym membership? The thing used to jog on its own, light on its feet, full of hope and possibility. Now it's sitting on the couch in sweatpants, eating instant noodles, scrolling through job listings. The dream's tired, folks. It's not dead. It's just out of breath. And maybe, just maybe, it's time we stop trying to resuscitate the old one and start building a new one that actually makes sense. The old dream was simple. Work hard, play fair, and life will treat you right. Except somewhere along the line, life stopped returning our calls. We kept working harder, but the payoff kept shrinking. So now the dream's like an old warranty. Fine print, no coverage. Oh, sorry, sir, your claim has expired. Please refer to the new terms and conditions of disappointment. We were told the American dream was a mansion with a picket fence, 2 cars, and 5 kids. I don't even know how you get half a kid, but that's what they said. And back then, you could believe it. You could work a steady job, buy a home, and take your family to the beach once a year without needing a second mortgage to afford the sunscreen. But today, that dream feels like it's in a museum somewhere, behind glass, next to the typewriter and the payphone. But maybe that's the point. Maybe it's not about getting that dream back. Maybe it's about creating one that fits the world we actually live in. Because right now, the dream's like a pair of jeans from high school. You can try to squeeze back into it, but it's just not happening. You need something that fits who you are now, not who your grandparents were in 1956. The old dream was built on ownership. Own a house, own a car, own a lawn mower. Now people are just trying to own a day off. Ownership's been replaced by subscription. You don't own your music, your movies, your phone, your software. Half the time you don't even own your data. You're just renting your life back from a corporation in monthly installments. Congratulations, you're living the dream. Press 2 to renew. So maybe it's time to stop defining success by what we own and start defining it by what we control. Freedom isn't about having a bigger house. It's about not having to sell your soul to keep the lights on. It's about time. Time to breathe, time to think, time to live without feeling like the clock is charging interest. And let's face it, the old dream was never for everybody. It was exclusive, like a country club where the doorman smiles while checking your wallet. It promised equality, but it was always on layaway for some folks. So maybe the new dream shouldn't be about chasing the top, it should be about raising the floor. Because a dream that only works for the lucky few isn't a dream, it's a commercial. The funny part is, people still chase it. You've got folks working themselves into the ground because they think if they just grind a little harder, they'll make it. But nobody ever tells you where it is. You keep running toward a finish line that keeps moving, like a treadmill powered by your own frustration. Keep going, you're almost there. Yeah, right, you've been almost there for 20 years. So what's the fix? Well, maybe it starts with telling the truth. That we've been measuring success with broken yardsticks. We keep comparing ourselves to people we'll never meet in lives that aren't even real. The dream doesn't need to be about keeping up anymore. It should be about catching your breath. You shouldn't need 3 jobs to afford dinner, and you shouldn't need to earn the right to rest. And here's another thing. The dream doesn't have to be about having more. Maybe it's about needing less. Less debt, less stress, less nonsense. We could use a dream that values balance over bragging rights. A dream where people aren't competing to see who can work the most hours before collapsing. You know what's really un-American? Burnout. You're supposed to be free, not fried. We could build a society that rewards creativity, not just productivity. You've got people with ideas, good ones, who never get a chance because they're too busy surviving. Imagine if we valued imagination the same way we value hustle. Imagine if being kind or curious paid as well as being ruthless. That'd be a dream worth chasing, wouldn't it? And maybe the new dream doesn't come with a white picket fence. It comes with clean air, affordable rent, and neighbors who don't glare at you for parking on the curb. Maybe it's about security, not status, because status fades, security stays. You can't Instagram peace of mind, but that's what people really want. You ever notice how we celebrate billionaires like they're astronauts? Wow, look how high he went. Yeah, but meanwhile, everyone else is still stuck on the ground paying for the rocket fuel. Maybe the dream shouldn't be about how high one person can climb. It should be about how solid the ground is for everyone else. Because you can't build a nation on a foundation of burnout and broken dreams. And don't get me wrong, it's not about giving up ambition. It's about giving ambition some manners. There's nothing wrong with wanting success. But success shouldn't mean stepping on everybody else's toes to reach the top shelf. The dream isn't about climbing over people. It's about lifting together. You know, teamwork, community, those things we used to talk about before everyone got Wi-Fi and forgot how to make eye contact. We've been trained to think that competition builds character, but all it's building now is ulcers. You can't run a country on anxiety and call it opportunity. The new dream should be about sustainability, not just for the planet, but for people. You shouldn't have to sacrifice your health, your sanity, or your weekends just to say you're doing well. So yeah, maybe the dream costs extra now, but maybe it's because we're trying to buy the wrong one. The old model's out of stock. It's time to build version 2.0, one that doesn't crash every time the rent's due, a dream that values people over profit, community over consumption, life over lifestyle. We've got to stop selling the fantasy and start funding the reality, because at the end of the day, a dream's not supposed to be a bill, it's supposed to be a vision, something shared, something alive, something worth waking up for. And maybe, just maybe, if enough of us stop renting the old dream and start designing a new one, we might finally remember what this whole thing was supposed to be about in the first place, because here's the truth hiding under all the slogans and sales pitches.